Students who are standing, please move fast. Guests have almost arrived. Alekia. Settle down. Chief guests have arrived. Students who are still standing, please settle down quickly. The chief guest has arrived. There are 116 million child laborers in the world, of which around 10 million are in India. Millions of children have been denied their dreams and peaceful lives for centuries now. For nearly more than 4 decades, one man has been confronting the entire world to rescue countless childhoods from undeserving injustices and violence. He, the embodiment of compassion and benevolence, has dedicated his life to restoring children's rights and equipping them with opportunities that society kept snatching away from them. He believed in the utmost purity of childhood and decided to give that happiness personified to every child across the world. We are talking about none other than Kailash Satyarthi ji, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for focusing attention on the grave exploitation of children for financial gain and his exceptional role in saving more than 1 lakh children from bonded labor and slavery. It is truly a privilege that he is amongst us today. Here's a video which I would want every one of you to watch very carefully, and here we go.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2014 is to be awarded to Kailash Satyarthi for the struggle against suppression of young people and children.
There is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the laws and constitutions are unable to protect our children. Today is the time for every child to have the right to life. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be more stronger than the quest for freedom. I refuse to accept here.
Getting a greeting like this is all the reward Kailash Satyarthi needs for freeing these children from a life of slavery. He tries to give these kids the childhood they missed.
Do you think these kids see you as a Nobel Peace Prize winner?
No, I don't think they see me as friend or brother or something like father. I have looked into their frightened and exhausted eyes. I've held their injured bodies and I have felt their broken spirits.
I refuse to accept that children belonging to certain sections of society are born to work for others at the cost of their childhood and freedom and education.
If the children are exploited, if the children are deprived from their childhood in any part of the world cannot live in peace. The world cannot be human.
It's not often the two winners of the Nobel Peace Prize get together, but it happened yesterday when President Obama met Kailash Satyarthi. They were joined by 3 children who were rescued from child trafficking and forced marriage.
You cannot live in isolation. All the problems and solutions are interconnected. And so the problem of child labor in any part of the world is your problem.
Satyarthi organizes raids with local police, but sometimes employers are tipped off and waiting for him armed.
But I have been attacked many times in my life.
You had a gun to your head.
Literally, here.
This is dangerous work, freeing these kids.
Somebody has to pay the cost for freedom. It does not come on plate. So if not me, then who else will do? Who will Nobel Prize?
Who won the Nobel Prize, he asks. Their reply, all of us kids.
It's good.
Every single minute matters. Every single child matters. Every single childhood matters.
Now, the students, hold your breath. The chief guest has arrived. Okay. Many hands are welcome the chief guest of the day. Have a very round of applause. Kailash Satyarthi amongst us. Come on, it's a proud privilege to have him here today amongst us. Thank you. Kindly be seated. We have request RBC sir to kindly present a bouquet to welcome the chief guest of the day. Thank you, sir. Now, may I also request RBC sir to present the welcome address to the august audience gathered here.
Thank you, Dr. Revati. Good morning, everybody. Honorable Chief Guest of the Day, Shri Kailash Satyarthi, Registrar Dr. Prem Kumar, the Deans, the Directors, Heads of the Departments, Faculty, and students, Dr. Prem Kumar, Director Communication from IST, a warm welcome and again good morning to one and all. We are immensely honored and privileged to have with us today one of the greatest thought leaders of our times, the man who has become the global voice for children's cause, the Nobel Peace Laureate, Shri Kailash Satyarthi. The name Kailash Satyarthi needs no introduction, as his ideals and actions are celebrated and idolized all over the world, especially among the youth and student community. Let me take this opportunity to introduce this living legend, the renowned human rights activist, social reformer, anti-child slavery activist, and one of the strongest advocates for the universal right to children's education. Shri Satyarthi's inspiring journey from an electrical engineer to that of a social activist reflects the passion and fire that brewed inside a young boy who was enraged at the denial of education, who was son of a cobbler he met on the way to school. It was a crucial realization which dawned upon him that denial of education, beyond the consequence of poverty and social discrimination, is very much the denial of a basic human right that propelled him to lead an undaunted crusade against child labor and child abuse at an early stage of life. Shri Satyarthi launched the Bachpan Bachao Andolan, Save Children movement, an all-India-based children's rights movement in 1980, through which he liberated more than 100,000 children from child labor, slavery, trafficking, and other forms of exploitation. His exemplary model of activism for the education and rehabilitation of children gained recognition the world over and resulted in path-breaking legislations globally. This global march against child labor galvanized support from hundreds of countries, resulting in the adoption of ILO Convention 182 on the worst forms of child labor, which went on to become the only universally ratified convention in the history of the ILO. He has been at the forefront of driving child-related agendas into the United Nations for a long time and was recently appointed an SDG advocate in 2021 for emphasizing child-related agendas in the UN Sustainable Developmental Goals. His vigorous campaign and countrywide movement for the constitutional recognition of education paved the way for the right to free and compulsory education in India in 2009. And Shri Satyarthi became the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 for his struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. He is also the founder of multiple social activist organizations, including the Global Campaign for Education. Kailash Satyarthi's Children's Foundation, Laureates and Leaders for Children, and 100 million campaign that was launched to mobilize 100 million young people for 100 million underprivileged children across the world to end violence against children and to promote the right of every child to be safe, free, and educated. His unmatched services towards transforming thousands of Indian childhoods from the dark ditches of agony and affliction have laid hopes for a better tomorrow. A world of his dreams, a world where every child is free to be child, free to grow and develop, free to go to school, and free to dream. Today, we are proud to have Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji here to interact with our students and faculty on the necessity of fostering compassion among the youth of the nation to lead this country towards a better future tomorrow. Let us lend our ears to Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji to learn some of the greatest lessons of life and to imbibe some of the greatest qualities of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the moment is here to listen to the chief guest. I'm sure all of you are very eagerly waiting for it. May I request our chief guest of the day, Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji, to address the gathering.
My dear young friends, respected Vice Chancellor S.B. Rao Garu, respected Star Shri Prem Kumar Garu, dear sisters and brothers. Whenever I had an opportunity to go to any college or university of technology, engineering, and science, I do not feel that I am a guest or even the chief guest. I feel that I am one amongst you. Because once I was also a student of engineering, but I was not sitting so quiet like you are sitting today as the engineering students, me and my friends were very naughty. Perhaps you are afraid of your deans and faculties and vice chancellor and registrar. I'm not asking you to make noise, but at least you can laugh. Don't you? You're not showing any happiness on your face. It's really my privilege to come to this land of Andhra Pradesh, the land of Alluri Sitaram Rajuji. It's the land of Poti Shri Ramalluji. But again, this place, Vijayawada, is also the land of the young stars and of course the senior people. Young stars like P.V. Sindhu, I heard this morning, and the Chief Justice, Honorable Ramannaji, and this list goes on, and that includes Ragarudu. He says that there is a building coming up, 15-story building, hostel for students. So next time when I come here, I will climb up on the top, and then he is going to show me his home in the nearby village. It's about 5 kilometers from here. So this is a very fertile land. Land of dreams, the land of dedication, the land of courage, the land of creativity and innovation, and the land to take actions and lead. But let me begin with a few stories which have very deep connection with SRM. Many years ago, I rescued a child who was working at brick kiln. His father borrowed some money from his employer, and in lieu of that, the entire family had to work for the entire generation, and the children were born and grew up in slavery. Somehow we came to know, and when we rescued this boy, he said that he had never seen the electricity. He had never touched paper or pen. He could not think of freedom. He could not comprehend the idea of freedom when he was freed himself and brought to our ashram. Very bright boy, but very traumatized that time. Somehow he gained his confidence, and later he studied in our ashram. Very good at his studies in school. He wanted to grow in his life. And today, I'm proud that he is pursuing his dream, and he is studying hotel management and catering in SRM University, this SRM Institute of Technology and Science in Chennai. His name is Sanjay Kumar. This associates my work with SRM. I rescued another boy, Chirag Alam. Chirag Alam, when he came to us after rescue, he was having burns and scars on his hands and legs and chest while working in a bangle making workshop. When they make the bangles, they have to work at 1500, 1400 degrees Celsius of temperature to mold the glass and make bangles. But this boy had no dream that his mother, his sisters can ever wear those beautiful bangles. They were sold across the country. Chirag also had a dream. And today, he is pursuing his dream in SRM University, this HRM Institute of Technology and Science in Chennai. This is a place where hundreds of you, thousands of you come with some dreams, some aspirations, but definitely with some determination to fulfill your dream. I am thankful to the president of SRM, Chandranayan Garuji, not for his vision to bring about quality in education and a dream that SRM should become one of the top universities of the world when India attains 100 years of its independence, but more importantly, to carry on those core Indian values of humanity and compassion. Thank you for that. Dear friends, when I see your faces, when you come to places like that, when hundreds or thousands of students are sitting in front of me in audience, you're not just students. You're not just the future professors or politicians or engineers or scientists or doctors with their degrees and with their careers, with a lot of good life, but you are the true makers of India. New India cannot be built only through bricks and mortars and cement and steel. New India will be built when the young people like you have the determination to make India the greatest country on the earth. It comes from your power. So when I am talking to you, I am talking to the builders of New India. I am talking to the leaders of New India. Politicians matter a lot. But the engineers, the scientists, the business leaders, managers, and whosoever is bringing knowledge in the country and spreading that knowledge for the betterment of entire humanity will be the builders of New India, and you are amongst them. Of course, all of you are able to come here because of two things. Actually, this question I asked to a group of Nobel laureates in science disciplines. In physics, no. In chemistry, in physics, of course, and medicine. There were 65, some of the top Nobel laureates of the world were sitting, and I was invited to address them some years ago. That happens once in a while when we meet each other. And I asked this question: to some of those scientists who should be credited for most of the things which we enjoy today in our science. The knowledge we learn in our academic institutions, they were responsible, 80 years old, 90 years old, 85 years old people. So I asked a question in Germany, tell me what has brought you here? Maybe your hard work, maybe your talent, maybe your parents. But the most important thing was freedom in your childhood. You were free to go to school. You were free to dream. And you were free to fulfill their dream, your dream. You have those opportunities. That was the first thing, freedom. And the second thing was you were very fortunate that you could learn education. So the combine of freedom and education has made you the greatest, the most elevated, the most decorated individuals on this earth. Freedom and education. But I said that you have used your freedom and your education in such a way that you were able to transform the world. Dear young friends, you have the same opportunity. You have freedom, you have education. So you have a bigger responsibility to make this world a better place. There are two ways which are intermingled in life, or two aspects of life. One is that we are driven by standard of living. One day we wanted to have good house, good car, all the facilities, good salaries, and so on, just to enhance our standard of living. And that has several indicators, quantifiable indicators, noted down and listed down in many ways in many countries, like use of energy or electricity or air conditions and so on. Standard of living. Education may lead or should lead to standard of living in the future. But there's another important aspect sometimes that is missing, and that is the quality of life. Standard of living and quality of life. Sometimes the standard of living helps in building quality of life, and sometimes quality of life makes your standard of living better. But quality of life is not so quantifiable, not so measurable. Now people started measuring it. Quality of life is linked with your happiness, with your satisfaction, with your mental peace, with your stability in life. Quality of life also linked with how you treat others and how others treat you. How fearless you are in life. Quality of life is linked with the fearlessness. Using the right path to make decisions. That comes when you are driven by your quality of life, but your quality of life cannot be attained in isolation that is linked with the quality of life of others. Living standards could be achieved by some people. Some people's living standards are very, very high and creating a lot of social tensions and discriminations and disparities in the society globally. But when you start thinking of quality life, then it is a little bit different. And that means this is the time we have to learn that how these two things can go hand in hand. Quality of life will make the quality of lives of other people better in the world. India is a land. We were having some chat with Nandakumarji on the way that we are living in the age of digital economy. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence. We are living in the age of the most sophisticated neurobiological inventions, neuroscience. A lot of experiments are done with DNA and genetic science. So many avenues. But when it comes to some of the core values, we compete in technology and science with the rest of the world. And that is a great zeal, that's a great passion, that's a great determination that we should not leave behind the rest of the world in science and technology. But something which is very unique in our case, in Indians' case, which is the part of our DNA. We may belong to Kashmir, or we may belong to Kanyakumari, we may belong to Muslims or Hindus or Christians or Sikhs or whatever. And that is compassion. Compassion. The message comes from the Vedas. It says, Sangachadvam, Samvadadvam, Samvo, Manansi Janatam, Deva Bhagam Yatha Purve, Sanjananam Upasate. Let us walk together. No one is left behind. No one is left out. When we walk forward, we should learn how to walk together. Sangachadvam, साथ साथ चलिए, किसी को पीछे मत छोड़िए. What else could be a better message than this to make this world a better place, a peaceful place, a sustainable place? The second it says, Samvadadvam. Let us talk in one tongue, the language of love, the language of service, humanity, mutual responsibility, compassion, courage. That also means the freedom to speak, freedom to express our viewpoints. It could not be suppressed because of any political reason. It could not be suppressed because of any other factor. Everybody has freedom to speak, but that speech should not be hatred. It should not be driven by revenge, hatred, and other kind of egos. It should be driven by the first part, and that is Sangachadvam, let us walk together. And the end, the last phrase in this mantra is Sanjananam Upasate. Let us come together and create a knowledge, and that knowledge becomes the knowledge for all. Let us come together to create a knowledge means all of us have to come together. All of us have to be in school to begin with. If we are not given freedom, if millions of children in the world, 160 million children in the world are not free to go to school, 200 million children are not in school today. The primary and secondary school-going children. Unfortunately, the pandemic, or the combine of pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war, is pushing another 200 million families, marginalized families, to acute poverty. 200 million due to acute poverty and unemployment, which is growing due to pandemic, joblessness, which has increased due to pandemic, and another 40 million due to Ukraine and Russian war. If it goes on, the number will increase. The food crisis, the energy crisis, fuel crisis, supply chain, breaking the supply chain, distribution of these things has cut, and that is increasing the poverty, global poverty, but all these problems. But this mantra says that everyone should receive education. And we are all committed globally to the Sustainable Development Goal, goal number 4, that everyone should get quality, inclusive and quality education, equitable education, lifelong learning. That is our joint collective commitment to the humanity. But unfortunately, we are failing. I'm sorry to say, though I am one of those 16 UN advocates on sustainable development goals, but I have no hesitation to confess that we are failing because we don't have adequate political will globally. We don't set the priority for our children and young people. And that's why it is very, very necessary that the youth like you should be on the driving seat. So emerge as the champions for the cause of your fellow citizens, your fellow young people in India and globally. But if you don't know their problems, if you have no interest, though you have the biggest or the most advanced machine, handy machine of social connect, and the knowledge transfer is your small mobile phone, smartphone. You can get any information about those people. I come across many children whom we free in India, and I work across 150 countries almost for last several years, for several decades in fact. I have met the children who had bruises and scars, injuries on their bodies. In the remote areas in Ivory Coast, Koteva, in West Africa, and they were producing cocoa beans. And when I asked these 15, 16-year-old girls and boys sitting in a village, one day, I was so shocked when these girls and boys told, and I asked one question that, how do you like chocolate? They looked at each other. What chocolate is, sir? What is chocolate? They've never heard of chocolate, and they work in the cocoa production, cocoa beans, which is the core ingredient of chocolate. I felt ashamed. They are working at the cost of their childhood and freedom to produce cocoa and we enjoy chocolates. But they had never heard of chocolate. In my own country, I have 3 children. One day, the youngest child I freed, they changed name, Salim, probably. It's a different name. But when I asked him, 8-year-old boy, taking away from the factory, taking out from the factory, that factory was the toys factory. He was assembling toys for an international company. And I asked him, what did you miss most, Salim? He said, sir, I missed my mother because whenever I cry for her, I could not sleep. So next day, I could not perform my work. So I was badly beaten up and abused. Then I asked that, what next? What else you miss? He said that whenever I assemble and complete the small toy, I miss the pieces of stones whom I play with in my village with my friends. He had never touched any other toy in his life except those small pieces of stones whom he played with. This is the 75th years. We are celebrating Amrit Mahotsav. And I'm also the board member of this group created by the Prime Minister for this celebration, because the celebration will go long for another year. And so we meet time to time. We met recently in Rashtrapati Bhavan, and almost all chief ministers and the governors were there, and some of us were there. But this is the question I asked to myself. India is a land that believes in humanity and human dignity. India is a land which has believed and taught the whole world to believe in the universal familyhood, universal brotherhood. It says, this is mine and that is yours is a wrong notion. Only the people of mean mentality think like that. For us, the whole world is family. I work in Pakistan and sometimes people ask, I said, I love my Pakistani children as I love my Sudanese children or American children or my Indian children. I cannot say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam without loving all the people on the earth as my family. Dear friends, that's why the youth have to learn, to inculcate, not to learn. Just to ignite the inner power inside them, and that is the compassion. When you feel the suffering of others as your own suffering, with a drive to alleviate that suffering, to end that suffering of your friend, of your relative, of your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your boyfriend sometimes, or your girlfriend, then it is because of the compassion inside you. About a year ago, a young lady who was working in my office, she was crying badly. So, like my daughter, I went to her and I said, oh, why are you crying? No, sir, nothing happened. She washed her face and then she started working, but she could not work properly. Then I asked her again, second day, next day, or in 2 days' time. I said, tell frankly what happened. If you don't share, then it would be very bad for you. No, sir, I am looking for a counselor, this mental health counselor or psychologist. I said, why? She said that my boyfriend and I have broken up. Breakup ho gaya hamara. So I asked more questions, little more questions. I'm not going to go in detail, but she said that we were in a good friendship, but This boy is very much influenced by her family, her mother especially, and she does not care for me time to time. She cares for her mother, and I could not hold it. I said, is it the only reason? She said the next reason was that I was hoping that both of us can settle down in another country. We can go because we are good in studies, but he's not willing to go because of the family reasons or because of whatever reasons. So I said that, is it the true love which is driven by your expectations, your desires, your wishes, or it is the love or relationship which is driven by something else? So she was curious to know, what is that something else? I said, that is compassion. When you feel compassionate to your friend, then you feel the suffering of him as your own suffering, as your own problem. His difficulty becomes your difficulty, and then try to resolve those things jointly. Instead of expecting something from that person, and that you will keep on breaking up. In our relationship, personal relationship, if we are compassionate and feel the suffering and difficulties, if somebody becomes very angry, or if somebody speaks abusive language, that is his sickness, that is his pain, that is his suffering or her suffering. And that suffering has to be resolved through compassion, instead of just expecting that she or he will improve on his own or on her own. So that is personal relationship. But when it comes to the social relationship, our responsibility to our village, our district, our state, our country, and globe is much more bigger. We live in a world which is so much interconnected. At least this pandemic should taught us that the world is not only interconnected, the interconnectedness has been taught by the social media, by information technology and so on, internet. But we should learn that we are also interdependent. We cannot solve any problem without the help and support of others. We have to learn that how to work together to solve each other's problems. We should become the problem solver, not the problem. We should not engage ourselves. We should not engage much of our mind only in thinking and talking about the problems. So many problems, so many problems. We start thinking as solution makers. Young people are the solution makers. Sometimes in many countries, some countries, people say that these young people have become the problems. They are more problematic. I always say that those who think that the youth are the problems, they are absolutely wrong. Every young person is a solution. No one can bring about those fresh solutions in science and technology in any walk of life than the young people in your age. So that matters a lot. That is the most precious age, because your brain, your mind, your heart, your soul is much more cleaner than the wise, adult, powerful people, knowledgeable people. And in this age, you should feel the suffering of others. Suffering of those children who are not in school. Suffering of those boys and girls who cannot dream. Suffering of those 8 children and their parents who go missing every hour in India. Suffering of those 5 boys and girls who are raped or sexually abused every hour in India. Suffering of those millions of people, millions of children, young boys and girls who are trapped by the vicious mafia nexus of online sexual abusers, online porn distributors, child porn distributors. That is a new problem which is emerging in the world and in India like anything. We have to think and feel the suffering of those people. Dear friends, India may be a land of hundreds of problems, but India is the mother of over 1 billion solutions. And you are those solutions. You are those solutions. So think as a solution maker. And that's why we need the compassionate leadership, the compassionate young leadership, youth leadership. And that is the reason in a minute I can share that we have launched a campaign, 100 million for 100 million campaign. Having trust in the power, the energy, the potential of youth in the world. I come across many young people in colleges and universities and schools, high schools, where they have quest, they have passion, they have energy, they have dream. They wanted to do something for the betterment of humanity and society, but they don't find any platform, or sometimes they lose the purpose of life because they are so much guided and dictated by their parents, sometimes by peers, just to focus on scoring good marks. That is very important to have best marks, good marks. But equally important is not to lose the track from the originality of being a human being. And that is much important, dear friends. So you can definitely be the campaigners. You can just find out what is this 100 million campaign. 100 million young people like you or younger than you, your younger brothers and sisters are suffering multiply. But on the other hand, at least 100 million young people in the world are ready to take up the challenges and wanted to make this world a better place for their fellow citizens and fellow children, young people. That is possible. When we launched this campaign in Sweden some years ago, the Swedish youth like you in a university raised hands when they wanted to take up a big challenge. And the challenge was so big policy challenge that Swedish government, which is one of the biggest donors in education for developing countries globally, especially in Africa, they were going to reduce their education ODA spending, ODA budget by half. The decision has been taken by the parliament. But this youth stood up and said, no, our country is not so poor. We are not so poor. Why are we reducing the budget for the developing countries' marginalized children? They are our sisters and brothers. And a call was given. Politicians, we invite you to our schools. So the local MLAs, not MLAs, they have something else, but parliament members. The parliament members go back to their school. So when these parliament members came to school, these youth in universities and high schools raised this voice on behalf of African children. And they said, what? Why did you take this decision? You have to change the decision. And I tell you, within few months, a special session of parliament was organized. I was also invited to elaborate on this campaign and try to convince the parliament members. Within one day, the decision was not only reverted, but additionally 70% more budget was allocated for the African children by the country. That is the power of young people. There's a very poor country, Uganda. There's a very poor country, Tanzania. We are having this campaign in those countries and many more countries. Young people in schools, colleges, from the All African Student Union and the local students, they stood up that in Uganda, the government should have a national policy for the eradication of child labor, where the young people could be invited to contribute. There was a nationwide campaign, and the result was that they were invited for an interaction with the parliament members, and the parliament has passed this resolution to make a national policy for eradication of child labor. Very poor students. They were not so well off as many of you may be, but they ignited their compassion to do it. In Tanzania, they decided to bring and sensitize civil society organizations and politicians together to the slums to help the children who were suffering through sexual abuses, traumatized, and so on. They could do it. So, dear friends, there is tremendous potential in you, in your university. I am sure that one day, when I come here, that day I will, as I said, go on the top of the roof to see your home. But also that day we should celebrate when SRM will have its own Nobel Laureate. SRM should have its homegrown chief minister of this country and the prime minister of this country. You should have that dream. You have several presidents. Prime Minister also was there from Andhra Pradesh, P.V. Narasimha Rao, but you have several presidents. I don't know anyone was there from the SRM University or SRM Institute of Technology and Science, but one day it should happen. Should it happen or not? ये डील्स करें एब्सोल्युटली, तुम लोग जिसको बनना है वो करें, सोचते हैं। कौन कौन सोच रहा है अभी? आप लोग सोच रहे हैं बच्चों, नौजवानों, या हो सकता है ऐसा? डू यू अंडरस्टैंड लिटिल बिट हिंदी? बॉलीवुड की फिल्में देखते होंगे, देखते हैं ना सब लोग? तो बताओ, कैन यू ड्रीम बिग लाइक दैट? अरे यार ऐसी सर कहोगे तो यस, ये तो ऐसे मंदिर में हो गया, जबरदस्ती माँ बाप कहते हैं कि जाओ जय जगदीश सर, तो जय जगदीश, फिर सोच, अब फिर व्हाट्सएप पे अपने फ्रेंड का मैसेज आ गया, जगदीश वहीं रह गए, तो धीरे से आवाज निकलती है, yes or no, say loudly, raise your hands. I tell you one thing while I am concluding, that there is a leader, I repeat it, there is a leader inside each one of you. There is a change maker inside each one of you. You are the change, no one else. You are the leader, no one else. You are the hero, no one else. When you watch this movie, Telugu movie, or Tamil movie, or Hindi movie, or whatever English movie, if I ask some of you, I'm not going to ask now, लड़कियां सामने बैठी उनसे पूछें तुम्हारा हीरो कौन है, तो तुरंत नाम आएगा शाहरुख खान, सलमान खान, फलाना ढिमका, नए नए बन गए बहुत सारे। लड़कियों से भी पूछा जाए, लड़कियों से भी हीरोइंस कौन है, so they will tell the name of one of them whom I don't know. हमारे जमाने में तो शबाना आजमी हुआ करती थी, हेमा मालिनी. So the life has changed, but it does not mean that the people of my young age do not keep track on the new heroes and new heroines. But I am asking this question. Of course, they are your heroes. In playground, those who perform well, they should be your heroes. You can definitely be inspired by them. But I ask you one question, that when you pay respect to your parents. When you go back to your hometowns in Bihar or UP or somewhere in the nearby village and meet your mother or grandparents, do you pay respect to them and love them and hug them or touch their feet or not? बोलिए हाँ या ना? मिलते हैं आप उससे? जब आपकी दोस्ती हो जाती है किसी लड़की से या लड़के से तो प्यार से बात करते हैं, थोड़ा अपने आप को इंप्रेशन मारने के चक्कर में रहते हैं? रहते नहीं रहते? मन में कुछ फिल्मी गाना भी आते हैं नहीं आते? आते हैं नहीं आते? अरे आप धीरे मत बोलो, मेरे मन में तो बहुत आते थे और गाना गाते गाते मैंने एक लड़की से प्यार किया और उससे शादी भी हो गई थी। लेकिन तब भी और अब भी मैं जब सोचता हूं कि असली हीरो कौन है, when you pay respect to your teachers, when your teachers teach you with utmost, honesty and sincerity and passion and conviction, neither the teachers nor you are being directed by a film director. जब आप किसी को प्यार करते हो, किसी का सम्मान करते हो, किसी से मिलते हो, तो कोई डायरेक्टर पीछे से डायलॉग बताता है? Does a director ask you to repeat a dialogue? डायलॉग याद करते हो किसी से मिलते वक्त अपने दोस्तों से? हाँ या ना में बोलो? कोई एक बड़ा सा कैमरा लेके खड़ा होता है जैसे फिल्मों में होता है? If these so-called heroes touch the feet of their mother, if their mother acts as an elderly, poor lady sitting on the sewing machine or cleaning clothes of others for the education, to educate her children, this is all acting and that is paid. She is paid for, he is paid for. If somebody is fighting and somebody is जो पिट रहा है, दोनों को एक डायरेक्टर बताता है और दोनों को पैसे मिलते हैं। पैसे मिलते हैं, फ्री में करता है। Do they charge money, all these actors, for every single dialogue, every single minute or not? Yes or no? थोड़ा धीरे आवाज है आप लोगों की, मत डरो इनसे, अभी तो मैं हूं थोड़ी देर के लिए, किसी से मत डरो। मैं तो अभी कह रहा था कि don't be afraid of anyone. If you have to be afraid of God, afraid of yourself, अल्लाह से डरो, भगवान से डरो, किसी से मत डरो, किसी पॉलिटिशियन वगैरह से मत डरना। तो ये सारे, all these people charge money under some direction, somebody's direction. There is a director, there is a writer, there is a dialogue writer, everyone is there and they charge money, but you don't charge. Do you charge money for that? आप लोग पढ़ाते हैं, बढ़िया चार्ज करते हैं कुछ, इनसे बच्चों से पैसा, वो फीस अलग चीज है, लेकिन कोई और दे रहा है आपको आके पैसे कि इतनी देर पढ़ाओगे इतना ही पैसा मिलेगा? पढ़ाते हो मन से, क्योंकि आपको तो रोजी रोटी करनी है। तुम लोग पढ़ते हो इज्जत के साथ, प्यार के साथ, क्लास में बैठते हो, लेकिन जब फिल्म के अंदर कोई कर रहा हो एक्टिंग बैठने की, तो वो पढ़ नहीं रहा, नीदर स्टडिंग इंजीनियरिंग, नॉट साइंस और नॉट मैनेजमेंट, लिबरल आर्ट, कुछ नहीं पढ़ रहा, वो बैठा है ऐसी, पढ़ा लिखा है, जितना पढ़ लिया। So who is the real hero? Are they the real hero who is charging money for every single thing, every single act, or you are the real hero who do on your own? कौन करता है अपने आप? Do you do on your own? Raise your hands. I did not say, देखिए प्रोफेसर साहब तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, आप भी कर दीजिए, because you are self-driven, you are motivated to perform your duty, and you are motivated to perform some of your sanskars, some of your teachings, some of your learnings. And that's why you are the real hero. You are the real hero. So my final question, who is the real hero? Say loudly, I am the real hero. Say like that. Not Kailash Satyarthi is the real hero. You are the real hero, so say, I am the real hero. Loudly, I wanted to hear loudly. Who is the real hero? लड़कियों की आवाज लड़कों से कम क्यों है? The girls have more power. For 5,000 years or so, their voice has been suppressed. This is the right time, this is the right place. These are the right people who are giving you opportunity and chance to speak loudly, louder than the boys and men. ठीक है? So, who is the real hero? देखो लड़कों की आवाज तो बंद कर दी तुमने, लड़के बंद है. Why not the boys also speak? Both of you can speak together. Who is the real hero? I ask that when you answer my question, raise your hands. Who is the real hero? I did not say that raise your one hand, and these people are a little bit shy because they must be professors and PhDs and faculties. They are not the real hero. When you go in front of your wife, you should tell that you are a real hero. Only then she will answer. So who is the real hero? Say loudly last time, who is the real hero? Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we give a standing ovation, please, loudly? That was an inspiring speech. Thank you for the inspiring speech, sir. Louder, guys, louder. Thank you, everyone. Can you be seated? I know you're very excited, but no wrestling, please. All right. Now, as a token of appreciation, kindly be seated, guys. We will be dining in some time, and we have interaction with sir. All the students, kindly do not get restless. We have interaction with sir. Please be seated. As a token of appreciation, now I request our VC sir to kindly present shawl to Shri Kailash Satyarthi ji. I also request our VC sir and Registrar sir to present the memento to the guest of the day. Memento to be presented by our VC sir and Registrar sir. Thank you, sirs. We will have interaction after vote of thanks. Kindly be seated. Now I request our Registrar sir to present the vote of thanks. Kailash Satyarthi wishes to give a memento to our VC sir. That's from the guest to the host. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sure, sir, please, sir.
So Professor Rao Garu is holding this in his hand. And this is our foundations and our movements envelope. And this has a bird encrypted inside it with a drop of water. When I was called to deliver my Nobel acceptance speech, I won't say that I was nervous, but I was filled with lot of thoughts about my countrymen, about the children of the world, thinking that I am the first Indian-born Indian sitting on those chairs where Nelson Mandela and Dalai Lama and Martin Luther King and the people like that sat. They keep exactly those chairs for us also, each year, 100-year-old chairs. So I lost my papers, speaking notes on that chair. Everybody was nervous, including King and Queen and Prime Minister and many, many people from the world. And as they say that this is the Nobel acceptance speech is the second largest watched TV show after FIFA World Cup. So anyway, and then when I lost the papers, suddenly a story came to my mind. There was a tiny hummingbird living in the jungle. There was a heavy fire broken out in jungle once. Everybody was leaving the jungle for a safer place, including the king lion. A lion noticed that this bird was flying straight towards the flame. And he shouted, "What are you doing? Committing suicide? You would be killed." She said, "No, sir. I was born and grew up in this jungle. I'm not going to leave it like that. I owe a lot for jungle. This is my home." He shouted, "Come, and then you can come back." She said, "No, sir. I am going to extinguish this fire now." He asked, "How come?" She replied, "Look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water." She is carrying a drop of water, and then she flew. The rest is the history. That is the legend. I said that this is not a story. This is my life. When I saw that so many children are trapped into slavery in the world, in my country, I cannot leave this world without it. I will make sure that together with everyone like you, I will see the end of child slavery in my lifetime. And I am doing this to you also, that you are all those hummingbirds and you can help other children, other young people. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I request our registrar sir to present the vote of thanks.
It is indeed a great pleasure to host the social reformer, Shri Kailash Satyarthi, the Nobel Peace Laureate at our university today. He has received the Nobel Prize for his struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education in 2014. We, on behalf of the university, thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and visit our university and motivating our students on social issues. I would like to thank our President, Dr. P. Satyanarayanan, and Vice Chancellor, Sir Professor V.S. Rao for their continuous support and guidance. I would like to thank all the deans, directors, faculty members, staff, and our beloved students for making the visit of the Nobel Peace Laureate a grand success. I would like to thank all the team members for organizing the event flawlessly. I would like to thank the print and electronic media who are present here for their continued support. I request the faculty members and students who would like to interact with the chief guest to kindly be seated till the others leave at the auditorium. Thank you.
Recasting the stigma surrounding the lives of children who were never allowed to grow wings to fly on their own is undoubtedly challenging. Around the world, certain children are supposed to work for others at the cost of their childhood, freedom, and education. The work cannot be humane without embracing the views of these cursed childhoods. This man has decided to change the narrative of denied childhoods and keep on inspiring the youth to believe in the fundamental principle of peace. He wanted the world to feel the discomfort.
I told 40 years ago and I told 20 years ago and I am saying now that I am going to see the end of child slavery in my lifetime. I am not going to die before that.
1981 में हमने पहला मामला हाई कोर्ट में हेबियस कॉर्पस की तरह किया। 34 बच्चे, महिलाएं, पुरुष सब छूट के आए। सो नाउ दैट वाज द बिगिन, दैट वाज समथिंग लाइक ग्लिम्स ऑफ गॉड। जितनी भी सफलताएं, उपलब्धियां हमने हासिल की हैं, वो सब कॉमा की तरह हैं। फुल स्टॉप तो तब आएगा जब दुनिया का हर बच्चा पूरी तरीके से अपने बचपन को जी सकेगा, उछल कूद सकेगा, स्कूलों में होगा। और हम जानते थे कि ये हजारों साल पुरानी, सैकड़ों साल पुरानी बीमारी है, मानसिक बीमारी है, सामाजिक बीमारी है, ये जो गुलामी की परंपरा है। लेकिन 40 साल में जो कुछ दुनिया में हुआ है बच्चों को लेकर, वो शायद 4000 साल में नहीं हुआ। हम जानते हैं कि आज़ादी कोई प्लेट में रख के नहीं परोसता, इसके लिए संघर्ष करना होता है। और हमारी लड़ाई भी आज़ादी की लड़ाई है, न्याय की लड़ाई है। कोई आपको न्याय तो ऐसे दे देगा नहीं कि लड्डू की तरह पकड़ा दिया, तो न्याय के लिए लड़ना है आपको। So that is the whole idea behind the justice for every child. And I have full faith in the young people. My only hope is the youth of our world. This is the time when we have to feel that they are our children. We can do it. We will do it.
Can you hear it again? Can we hear it again for the man of his words, vision, and compassion, Dr. Kailash Satyarthi, as he says, every single minute matters, every single child.